Thank you, Madam Chairman. FirstNet implementation is essential for creating a state-of-the-art nationwide public safety network, and this is critical during emergencies. This week marks 5 years since Superstorm Sandy swept through my district, and the lessons of that storm are as applicable today as they were then. And 5 years later, I can say there are three things we need to focus on to make sure we're better prepared for the next major storm. First, we need to keep our networks online during these emergencies, and that's why I drafted the Sandy Act to give our network operators the resources they need to repair our networks during disasters. And that's also why I worked with the wireless industry to create the Wireless Network Resiliency Cooperative Framework to ensure people can call for help during an emergency, even if their network goes down. And second, we need to upgrade our 911 networks to be more secure and resilient and to handle the information required of a 21st century network. Among other things, that means ensuring that 911 knows your location when you place a call. And third, we need to get FirstNet operational as quickly as possible to give our first responders the tools they need to better protect us and coordinate emergency responses. I wanted to mention specifically that New Jersey was one of the first states to opt in, which makes sense given JerseyNet's success as a proof of concept for FirstNet as a whole. So I wanted to ask Mr. Poth, are there lessons learned from New Jersey's experience that can benefit the nationwide network?
Absolutely, and New Jersey was a great example. The state did opt in. We've been working with them for years. But what actually happened with the recent hurricanes down in Florida, New Jersey, who had already opted in with their assets from JerseyNet, asked if they could respond down to Florida to help another state using those assets. So the nationwide response for public safety was happening in real time. So I think that was a great example of taking advantage of an early builder and of New Jersey's can-do attitude that really helped Florida with FirstNet assets that were residing in New Jersey. And we hope to see that that model replicates itself throughout the country.
Well, thank you. I wanted to clear up some questions about the bipartisan law that we passed in 2012 that established FirstNet. First, when Congress passed the law, we made clear that states could opt out of the wireless portion of the network, but they are prohibited from building a different core of the network. So again, Mr. Poth, is that your understanding of the law as well?
Yes, and as it was discussed earlier, one of the other complications with any additional cores is around that cybersecurity, and that's something that we can not be have any leniency. This must be a robust, secure network, but a single core is the intent, and that's what we're executing to.
Well, thank you. The second thing, when we passed the law, some of us were concerned about the way states divert 911 fees to other projects. And to stop that from happening to FirstNet, we required all fees raised by the states to be invested only back into the network. So let me ask Secretary Moran, if I can. Can you walk us through the financial considerations you took into account when Virginia decided to opt into the network?
Well, first of all, in Virginia, we don't raise fees, so it's a low-tax state, very competitive for business. So the financial, Mr. Congressman, it was at no cost. What was one of our primary reasons for opting in was that it was at no cost to the Commonwealth. And in assessing and evaluating the options for the state to build out the network, it would have been cost prohibitive. And obviously our primary responsibility is, as yours is to provide that dedicated network to our first responder community. So we saw the no cost being one of the primary factors to make that decision. So there is no cost to the Commonwealth.
I don't know if anybody mentioned it. You look a lot like your brother, but you sound just like him when you talk. Let me ask Mr. Sambar, going back to the three priorities I mentioned earlier, next generation 911, network resiliency, and FirstNet, as the only carrier testifying today, what are you doing to further these goals?
So your three goals, I'll hit them in order. Networks online. If you use Hurricane Harvey in Texas as an example, at any time we had no more than 4% of our network down at any given time throughout Texas. That's when the hurricane hit through the week following with the floods. So we're pretty proud of our ability to keep networks online, and that's hundreds of thousands of people working very hard to keep the network going. Secondly, the 911 networks. AT&T is one of the largest carriers investing in the 911 networks, or next generation 911 in the United States. And we feel really good about the natural synergies between the next generation 911 that we're offering in the FirstNet network and the ability to go from the call that the citizen is making into the 911 PSAP and out to the first responder over the FirstNet network. There's some real natural synergies there that work really well. And then getting FirstNet up and operational, and that's possible by a big carrier like us. We do start with our commercial network as the foundation. So states that have opted in, we already have subscribers signing up for FirstNet. They do start on our commercial core and our commercial network. They will graduate in March of next year to the FirstNet network, but we want to get it up and operational as soon as possible. We don't want states to have to wait 2, 3, 4, and 5 years.
Thank
So
you.
I think that hits all of your priorities, Congressman.
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.